Hey guys, it's Nana, and today I wanted to do another bookish talk, and I wanted to talk about my reading history. So I saw Ashley from Climb the Stacks video on her reading history, and I thought it looked like a really fun topic, so I wanted to do my own video on how I got into reading, I guess, and how I ended up where I am now. By the way, I'm filming this on Monday morning, which is unusual before work. I usually film on the weekend because I'm home during the day and the light is a lot better, so the lighting's a little wonky and I'm talking a little fast because I gotta get to work. I apologize, but I did want to do this video and have it ready for Tuesday. When I was a kid, I was a huge reader. My grandfather taught me how to read when I was 3 or 4, I think, and I pretty much took off from there. I love to read anything and everything at all times of the day, and I just had a voracious reading appetite. I would always ask my parents to take me to the library or the bookstore, and they would because they were great. But you know, if we were out and about and we walked by the bookstore, I'm like, oh, can we please just stop in here really quickly? And they're like, really quickly means like a couple of hours, because it was nearly impossible to drag me away from the bookstore. But I just love to go in and sit and read, and sometimes I would pick up a book and just sit there for hours and start it and finish it in the bookstore. And we had this cute little independent bookstore. I think it was independent. We had this cute little bookstore in Bakersfield called Russo's, and had these comfy armchairs, and it was small and quiet, and I really enjoyed it. And I also, oh gosh, do you remember, what are those called? The Scholastic book catalogs. I would be so excited every time those came along, and I'd browse through and I'd circle everything that I wanted to order, and then I'd show it to my parents, and they'd usually let me pick one, because they always told me that if they bought all the books that I wanted, they would be broke really quickly. So since I couldn't buy all the books I wanted, I asked them to take me to the library pretty much on a weekly basis, and I would go and pick out all my books, and I was little, you know, and I'd get a huge stack and then sort of like carry them to the front desk and check out, you know, maybe 10 books at a time, and I'd read them all by the next week. I also remember that library had summer reading programs, and during the summer you kept track of what you read, and if you met certain goals you would get a prize. And I don't remember what the prize was. I think it might have been a free book or something, but I definitely look forward to that each summer, participating and, you know, keeping track. It was like pre-Goodreads, so I think I was writing down what I was reading, and that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I just loved reading. I loved going to the library. I always had a book on me. If we were going on a 5-minute car drive, brought my book along. If we were going on an hour-long car drive, brought 2 books along in case I finished the first book and needed another one to read. I never wanted to be without a book. And then even during high school, I think I still had some time for personal reading. Not nearly as much as when I was younger, but I still definitely had some time for personal reading, particularly in the summer when we were off. Coffee break. And then in college, my reading slowed way, way, way down. You know, college was a lot tougher than high school, and I just had so much work and was reading so much for a class that I really had very little time for personal reading. I think maybe I read 1 or so personal book a month, you know, that was not for school a month, but that's probably more than I read. And I just, you know, I just didn't have time, and the only time really I would read regularly just for myself was when I was on summer break, and even then I was doing internships and studying abroad and traveling, so not a lot of time for reading. One of the things I was most excited about when I graduated is I was like, okay, now that I'm done with school, I'll have way more time for reading, and I'll go back to that, you know, huge bookworm that I was as a kid. But I had fallen out of the habit of reading regularly, so it didn't happen right away for me. I really wanted to get back into reading, and I thought, I have time now, like, so it'll just happen. But actually I had to make like an effort to pick up books again and to go to the library or, you know, buy books and start reading regularly. And it took me a couple years. It was my New Year's resolution for 1 or 2 years. It took me a couple of years to get back into that pace of reading, you know, X number of books a month. And I think what really helped me was Goodreads. A blog friend of mine told me about Goodreads, and I think when I set my first reading challenge, which was maybe 25 books or 20 books, it was really helpful to have a place to keep track of all the books I've read or wanted to read, and just seeing that little goal, that little bar inch forward as I finished each book, I was like, yes, I'm doing it, like I'm reading again, and it was really encouraging. But I had to make the effort to make time for that, because I thought, you know, I would have so much time, but then I was doing other things, like, I don't know, I'd work on a knitting project or what have you, you know. I'd just fallen out of the habit, and I had to make an effort to get back into the habit of reading. I think it was 2012 when I really, like, found myself picking up stride again, and then 2013 I increased my goal to 45 books. And I met that, which was awesome. And then this year I think it's set at 45 books again, and I think I'm 2 books away, which is really great, and it's not even the end of the year, so I probably will bump that. And earlier this summer I discovered BookTube, and I'd been watching beauty videos for a while, but then somehow that led me to BookTube, and I was like, wow, there are people on YouTube talking about books, like this is awesome, this is what I want to do. It makes me so happy to talk about books. My roommate and I have completely different book tastes, so the books that we read don't usually overlap. So it was really great to discover this community on YouTube where people read all sorts of things and they just want to talk about books and share what they're reading, and I love that. That is my reading history in a rambly sort of nutshell. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing a little bit more about that, and if you want to tell me how you got into reading or your reading history in the comments below, I'd love to hear about that. And if you like this video, you want to give it a thumbs up and or subscribe, I would really appreciate it. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Goodreads. I'll leave all my links in the description box below, as I always do, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!